This video will go over how to get topography from cadmapper.com and then scale it and slice it so that you can create a topographic site model. This is not something that we will actually be doing in our digital drawing class, but you will need to create topographies for other classes you're in. So first thing, I go to cadmapper.com. I'm going to sign in, and here I want to find the area that I'd like to map. So I'm going to head over to the Canton waterfront over here, and I'm going to zoom in. Specifically, I'm trying to remember, I think that little pier is where I'm most interested in, because this is where the kinetic sculptures come down this street, they come down here, they roll into here, they go down into the harbor around this and back up. I can create a free map up to 1 kilometer. So I'm going to increase my size a little bit so I get a little more of this park in there. And actually, why don't I get the entry to the parking lot as well, so you can actually see like where it'll come down the hill and up here. Maybe not too big. Let's say it's going to be that big. Okay, so I want it as a DXF. That's great. Make sure to 3D buildings and set false height. That's going to be, I actually have like almost no buildings in there. It's just those two. So in this case, I'm going to take that off. Also, if I don't do the 3D buildings, then it'll give me the outlines of the building, which may be more useful to me for a site model. Okay, topography, contours every 5 meters is good. Road outline geometries, so 10 meters to the highway means it'll be about 30 feet wide. That's good. Major roads at about 8 meters wide is good. Minor roads 5 meters wide, also fine, and paths are going to be 2 meters or about 6 feet wide. I think in this area that'll be appropriate. So once I have all that set, I'm going to hit create file, and it's going to take a second to think about it. You can see a preview of what it looks like over here, and I'm going to hit download. Make sure this is saved somewhere you can find it. So I'm going to move this over to my week 7 mega folder. I have to change the name because I already have one in there. I don't know if I just messed that up. Let me create a new folder in here. Okay, so let's try that instead. I need to extract everything out of this folder. So I'm going to hit extract all. Extract. Great. Now I want to open up Rhino. Okay, I'm going to go to File, Open. I want to find that, and actually it might make me do an import. We can try this and hit Open. The model coming in is going to be in meters, so I can change that. Everything else is fine. Hit OK. Okay, so here we have, let's see what we got. I'm going to put this onto Ghosted so I can see what's the topography. So there isn't a whole lot of topography on this site, so this might be a little bit boring for what we're doing. But we will do it anyway. Okay, and hope for the best. So I'm going to change colors just so I can see what's happening in here. I'm going to make the water blue. The buildings I'll make brown. The parks I'm going to make green. And road outlines can stay black, that's fine. Topography, I'm going to change to a tan color. And then contours, I'm going to change to hot pink. Yeah, so you see there's not a whole lot of change in topography on this site. I feel like in person it feels like more than there is, but that's fine for what we're doing. So I can actually turn these off. I'm going to create my own contours in a bit. So I don't need them at the moment. Okay, great. So next thing I'm going to do is I need to decide on the scale of my model. So let's make sure that this is the right size to begin with. So if I go over to here, I said that my paths were going to be 2 meters wide. So just make sure it's showing 2 meters for that. Great, it is. I want to change it to feet and inches. It's a little bit easier for me to deal with. So I'm going to type in units. Over here, change it to feet. Feet and inches, 101/16, hit OK. Scale model, yes. Okay, so now let's check that this is about 6 feet. Distance from here to here, 6'6", great. Okay, because I'm doing this to make a physical model, if I were just going to use this as a site map, I'm going to start drawing on it, I would leave it at full scale. There's no reason for me to not have it at full scale if I'm drawing a model. If I'm drawing like a drawing. But for models, I really like bringing it down to the exact scale I'm working at because I'm going to be slicing it to create my topography, and I like being able to use my material thickness and having it be the right scale. So for example, if I'm cutting 1/4 inch cardboard, I'm going to have a different number of slices than if I'm using 1/16 inch chipboard. So personally, I prefer to scale everything ahead of time in here. That means it's going to get quite tiny. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to bring it down first. So let's say we were going to go to 1 foot equals 1/32 of an inch scale. So it's pretty small. So I'm going to select everything, type in scale, press here, somewhere near the 0 point. Okay, and my scale factor is going to be 1/12. That's brought it down from feet to inches. So right now in this model, 1 foot in real life is 1 inch in my model. Now to get it down to 1/32 of an inch, I'm going to scale it again. Base point could be anywhere over here. And here I'm going to divide it by 1/32. And now 1/32 of an inch in real life. 1 foot is 1/32 of an inch in my model. And to check that, I can do a DIST from here to here, and it's 3/16 of an inch. So that's the same thing as 6/32 of an inch, or about 6 feet. So that's all good. If I want to check how big my whole thing is, let's just see how big my model is right now. So from here to here is 1'3". From here to here is 2 feet. So that should already fit in our laser cutter. I think your laser cutting bed is something like 18 inches by 32 inches, if I'm remembering right. So that'll definitely fit pretty cleanly on one sheet. You'll only probably be able to fit one per sheet, but that's fine. Okay, so next thing I want to do, I want to create a, well, first let's create a rectangle around this whole thing that's going to define the boundaries of my model. So I'm going to make a new layer, bring it up. Nope, didn't mean to do that. Get out of there. Okay, move it up. I'm going to call this one outer border. And I'm going to make this red. Okay, so my outer border is going to be, I want to make sure that like these roads don't have this weird end thing. I think that's super weird looking. So I'm going to come in a little bit from there. Maybe I'll start it here. and then come down. And I want to make sure I don't run out of water, so I'll come like here. Okay, so that'll be the outer border of what I'm working with. Next thing I want to do is I want to slice my topography so that I know how many pieces that I'm going to be needing to build up. So in this case, I want to go into my perspective view. Let's take a look. Let's make sure this red line is beneath my topography completely. It should be, but just in case something wacky happened when I was moving it, just double checking. Okay, great. So I'm going to create a new set of contours, and I'm going to pretend that I'm cutting 1/8 inch material. So maybe it's some kind of cardboard I'm making my topography out of. So I'm going to call this 1/8 inch contours. And I'm going to change this color to red. So just so we can think through this, if this is at 1/32 of an inch scale, I know that 1/32 of an inch is going to be a foot. So if I do this with 1/8 inch material, there are 4/32 of an inch in each eighth of an inch, correct? So let's double check that. 1 divided by 32 equals times 4 equals 0.125. Yep. So basically it would be giving me a contour line every 4 feet. So let's start with that, and if it looks too chunky, we can always get thinner material to make our this contour topography from. So let's change this to, I don't know, light pink. Okay, double click on it. So I'm going to type in contour. Objects for contour is going to be the topography. Hit enter. And then contour base point, pick the edge of that red plane you made. Then direction perpendicular is going to be straight up. You can come into an orthogonal view to do that. And then distance between contours is going to be 1/8 inch. Enter. Okay, so that's going to give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers. That's pretty reasonable. I don't think that's too ridiculous. So we are going to accept that and go with it. Okay. So I no longer need the topography, so I can hide that. Everything else I have, now that I'm done dealing with the topography, I actually just want it flat. So I'm going to select everything and type in project to C-plane and delete input object Y for yes. And that just made everything flat. So now everything is just like one big piece. Okay. Here, I'm going to use my red line to trim off all the stuff that I don't want anymore. So trim, that's everything outside of that red line. I'm going to get rid of. I don't need it. All these weird endings that I don't want, I'm going to get rid of. Okay, there's still, I guess I didn't make it quite small enough, so there's still like some weirdness happening there. You see, like that's super weird. So let's go into our outline. And where it's rounding out, I know the road really is just going to go straight. That's not a normal thing. So if I come here and hit tab, I can make those lines straight, and then I can trim out that. I can use these and trim here, because those will just connect. Where else is that happening? Looks like here and there. So I can do the same thing here, line, tab to keep on that line. And I can trim off this piece, trim off the end of this piece. Same thing here, line. And then I can trim off these weird parts and trim off these parts. Okay, that looks better. Except over here, obviously those need to go. It looks like the dock didn't come in as any kind of a layer. Right? Like, wasn't that part of the map? So I guess the dock is just straight off of there. So I want that as in here. So maybe I'll make another layer and call it dock. And I'll make it, I don't know, yellow, orange, orange, and I'm just going to come out, and I don't know exactly how long that is. How long do we think it looks? It looks about as long as the piece before that. So let's say it's about this long. And then we'll move this out here. And copy it over to here as well. Okay, so that's representing my dock there. Oh. Great. This is every line, so I want to save this piece. I'll trim off that little bit. Okay. So I want to save this, but this is more for my reference than anything else. I'm going to actually create all new boards. So I'm going to copy this over here, and this is where I'm going to go into play with it. That one's obviously didn't get trimmed. Okay, great. So first thing I want to think about is, what does my very first piece look like? My very first piece is going to be basically just the bottom here. So anything that's on the very lowest level, and any lines that are on the very lowest level. And I want to keep this line because it's going to tell me where my next piece goes. So I'm going to hit TR for trim, trim everything beyond that line because that will all be covered by other pieces of stuff. And then I'm going to delete all those other things. So coming in here, delete, 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 delete all that stuff. Don't need it. Okay. Now these lines that are here, I do not want to cut, I want to score them. So I'm going to create a new layer, two new layers. The first one I'm going to call cut. The next layer I'm going to call score. The cut and score layers need to have very specific colors, and you will talk to whoever is working in your fabrication shop to find out how yours is programmed. Usually it's like red is cut and score is like any colors that are like right under that, like magenta or blue. I'm going to do blue and red, but you will need to check with your shop like what the colors are. So I'm going to change the very outline to cut, so change object layer. And I'm going to change all these other ones in here to score, change object layer. So that'll give me the line for my water. It'll give me the line for my roads in here. It'll give me the line for my dock in here. If I wanted to be fancy, I might even create a second layer for the water so it's kind of receded. That actually might be nice. So I think we really need one more of these. So this is not layer 0. Really, this is going to be layer 0. And that layer is only going to have the water on it. Okay, so if this is my layer 0, then when I get to here, I can take this, I can trim off this part. This is now my new cut line. Okay, so I need to change this curve over to cut, select change object layer, join. Okay, and then these are my score lines. So now I have my first 2 layers. If I want to be fancy, I can create, I can also make little new numbers on here so that I know that what layer goes where. So like if this is layer number 1, I could do, I could write text, standard. We don't want these to be feet high. We want it like 0.08, like an inch, maybe 0.03. So you don't want an Arial because then it's going to shade in the whole thing. There should be like a really simple font. It's like some technical font. Do I remember the name of it offhand? Probably not. simplex. Okay, so I'm going to change that to my score layer. Actually, we might want it a little bit bigger than that. That's pretty small. But that way it'll label that that's my first layer in case I can't remember. And then I could copy this to my second layer. And this one I could write 2. And that's just notation for me as I'm model building, so I know what goes where. Okay, great. So now I need my next one. So I'm going to actually go back to using this whole thing and copy it over for my third layer. So we already have this layer. Oops, I forgot to trim off this part. Great, okay, so this is our water layer, then this layer goes on next. So now this is the new edge of my piece. So, and actually I think this got converged with that somehow. So we're gonna take that, trim, everything beyond that goes away. Okay, this is my new cut line. I can cut that piece off. I'm going to have another piece starting here, so I can actually trim everything past that line. So I can trim all this stuff out. So this is one place that I might be a little bit careful. And we can talk, I might actually unleave the building fully put into there. So the reason I'm saying that is because like it's annoying to have a building that has a base on more than one level. So when I build my cardboard building, I'll probably build the base all on this level. So I'm going to leave that in there. Okay, and then everything else can get deleted out. Okay, and I'm going to change all this stuff to my score layer because I want it written in there. I don't want it to cut through. I just want it as a reference. So change object layer. And again, this is going past, so I'll trim that out. I want to make sure this is all joined and that it is on my cut layer. Is this one joined? It's not joined. Change to cut layer. That's all on my cut layer, hopefully, just in case. Check that. Okay. So now I have my third piece. I'm going to label that. Okay, next one. It looks like a lot of these I missed trimming on the side, so hopefully that got them that time. Okay, so I'm going to copy this whole thing over. So now it looks like I have all the way up to here is already done, so I'm going to trim everything before that. And then actually I'm also going to trim out the rest of the footprint of this building because this building is going to lay all on this layer. So I'm going to trim out that so that the building stays nice and steady. Now you notice I have this little sliver that's going to be annoying, but I'll leave it in there. So there will be a piece right here. And I think it's just on that one layer that that's going to happen. So I have that. I can trim out the rest of this, get rid of that, get rid of that. And hopefully I have the outline. Yep, I have the outline for that there, so I'll know where to put that piece in. Okay. Anything past this line is not going to show up, so I can delete it, except for this little piece. I'm going to change all of this stuff to be my, I'm going to join it and put it on cut. Change object layer. Okay, and I'm only going up to this line because then the rest of it will be on another piece, so I can trim everything past here. Same deal with this building. I want to leave that building intact. then all this stuff can go. Okay, everything else is going to get changed to my score layer. So I can select all that, change it to my score layer. Beautiful. All right, next layer. So copy everything up. It gets kind of repetitive after a while, but you get the point. Okay, so here, I'm now looking for this line, which is the one right here. So I'm going to change so I can see it. Everything past it gets trimmed. At this again, we're going to do the building thing we did before, where we're going to make the building, it kind of jog for the building. So we're going to trim that part. And now everything past this line goes away. This whole thing is also doing that. I didn't get that in. So trim out all that. Hopefully that's the left. We need to do for one more layer. So anyway, okay. That's fine. Change object layer, join. Okay, all this stuff is going to delete. And now it's all going to go up to this line. So everything past this line goes away. So trim, all that stuff. And you can see it's getting steeper over here. The lines are getting closer together. Okay, everything left is going on my blue layer. So it's scored. Okay, next one. So last piece. So this should be my new cut line. So change object layer, trim everything below it. Now that'll be a little bit different if you're doing something that's like a hill, because you might have a case where, like, you know, if the highest point's in the center, then there's gonna be stuff around it that's being trimmed. So in this particular case, it's always downhill, but there might be some other cases where you have a high point and you'll need to judge accordingly. So trim, all this stuff goes away. Oops. Does that not quite touch the, something's not quite touching the edge. Let's see. It's probably not that though. Probably the other side. Oh, that's not joined yet. Okay, so if I join that and now I do trim, that should fix it. Great. I can join those two together. Change object layer. Okay, it's going, if we have a couple more to do, it's going up to that line. So I'm going to trim everything that is above that line. Delete all that stuff, don't need it. Okay, and all that stuff is going to get changed to the blue layer to be scored. Okay, next one. Copy everything up. Okay, oh, I missed that part. Okay, so my new line is right there. If I can't really see it, I can always kind of copy it up so I can see which one it is. It's that one. Change object layer. Actually, I'm just going to copy this up now while I can. So copy, I think I have two more to go. 1, 2. So in this one, this is a cut line. Or no, maybe it shows up one more. Change object layer. Okay. Don't need this one. Great. Okay, so I'm going to trim everything below here. Make sure anything that crosses that line is trimmed. Okay, delete. And then we don't need anything above that line, so I'm going to trim all that stuff out. Delete anything I don't need. Okay, all this stuff. Oops. Changes to my blue layer. I want to make sure that outline is joined. Oh, sorry, I'm going to change this one. Change object layer, join. Okay, last one. Trim everything that is below. Delete it. This gets joined. Changed all the cut layer. Everything else should be on the score layer. Okay, so now if I turn off all my other layers, I should just see all the lines that the laser cutter is actually going to cut. And then I do want to make sure they're all labeled. So 1, 2, 3, this one has 2 pieces. So this one I'm going to label 4. The one issue is if I put 4 on here, you're going to see it because there's no piece for me to hide it under. So that one I'm just going to have to keep track of and remember where it goes. This is going to be number 5, number 6, number 7. Okay, another situation where I'm not going to label 8 because I can't hide the label and I don't want those to show up in my final model. So some of these I can cut on the same sheet of paper. So I'm going to, if this is my laser cutter paper, I'm just going to make a couple of them. I'll bring them over here because I think I have stuff on that one on the other layer. Okay. Because you don't want to be wasteful, you want to try to nest them in as few pieces as possible. So I can group each one individually, or I can just be really careful in moving it. I'm doing the latter, I'm just going to be careful. Nope, that is not the right size. Okay, so size should be 18 by 32, 18 inches, 32 inches. And I probably don't want to cut within like a ½ inch of that. Just so that I don't have any pieces that are like coming off the edge, or it just gets tricky towards the edge usually. So I like to leave a little border. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. So there, that one's probably going to be all on its own. And the first couple of these are going to be on their own, I imagine, because they take up most of the paper. This is a situation where I'm going to move this way closer so it doesn't take up as much room because it's going to cut out as 2 separate pieces anyway, so no reason not to move it closer. And now at this point, I think I can start fitting more than one on a page. Let's see if I can move this one. If I rotate it, it'll probably fit. So I can rotate it and then move it up. And I forgot to copy before I did that. That one was this one. Okay, so this one. Can I fit it? What if I rotate it 90? Will it fit? Probably not, right? Let's just check. No, way too long. Okay. So I think I do still need one more board, which is kind of a bummer. But then these two will certainly fit on one. So not perfect. You're still going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 boards, but they're actually all shorter. So you could totally get away with just having a shorter board. So how far is this? GIST. So to about there. So you could get away with having a 2-foot board instead of doing the 32-inch board. So at least you can save material a little bit that way. So you would export these as a DWG and open them up in AutoCAD usually for the laser cutter. Although again, check with your fabrication manager because every lab is set up a little bit differently. And then when you print these, you're going to stack them. And when you stack them, they'll create your topographic model. Thanks.